Charles Manson, one of the most infamous criminals in U.S. history, went to trial in 1970 for his murders in the Tate LaBianca case. He commanded his followers, known as the Manson family, and used brainwashing tactics to ensure their loyalty to him. To understand why he had these tendencies and how he had the acute ability to brainwash people, we first need to go back to 1953. The year is 1953. As the Cold War enters its early stages, tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union begin to rise, and the U.S. launches a secretive program. On April 13, 1953, CIA Director Allen Dulles authorized a project named MK-Ultra, a series of covert operations aimed at researching mind control, psychological manipulation, and interrogation techniques. This project encompassed over 150 sub-projects, including experiments involving potent hallucinogens, hypnosis, and extreme sensory deprivation. MK-Ultra was a direct response to the perceived threat of Soviet brainwashing techniques, and it was conducted across various institutions, including universities, hospitals, and prisons. Between 1953 and 1973, the CIA subjected countless individuals to these experiments, many without their consent or knowledge. The program was later exposed during a series of government investigations in the mid-1970s. MK-Ultra was overseen by Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, a chemist who specialized in poisons and mind-altering substances. Gottlieb and his team performed many experiments and procedures on the many subjects of MK-Ultra. One of these subjects was Charles Manson. In this study, he was essentially programmed to be a killing machine and gain the ability to manipulate other people the way the doctors in MK-Ultra aimed to do with their patients. This allowed Manson to have the aforementioned Manson family, which he controlled and used to help carry out his heinous acts. To get a better understanding of what caused Manson to be motivated to do this, we need to briefly go back to Manson's childhood. Charles Manson was born in Cincinnati, Ohio to Kathleen Maddox, a 16-year-old who worked as a prostitute. His early years were marked by instability as his mother frequently engaged in criminal activities and was periodically incarcerated. By the age of 9, Manson began engaging in petty theft and truancy. His delinquency continued to escalate, leading to his first arrest at 13 for armed robbery. Throughout his adolescence, Manson was in and out of reform schools and juvenile detention centers. Despite brief attempts to reform, he consistently returned to criminal behavior, including burglary, auto theft, and violent assaults. By the time he reached adulthood, Manson had spent more time in institutions than outside of them. This is what would ultimately land Manson in jail when prisoners were being subjected to the experiments of MK-Ultra, where he would gain the psychotic ability that would later characterize the crimes he would later commit with his followers. After his release from prison in 1967, Charles Manson relocated to San Francisco, where he began attracting a group of followers who would become known as the Manson family. Manson had spent years in and out of various prisons, during which he was reportedly exposed to psychological experiments that aligned with the methods used in MK-Ultra, including the administration of mind-altering drugs such as LSD. Manson established himself as a figure of influence among a group of young, impressionable individuals. He used a combination of charisma, manipulation, and LSD to exert control over his followers. By 1968, the Manson family had relocated to the Spawn Ranch, an isolated property outside Los Angeles, where Manson continued to indoctrinate his followers with apocalyptic beliefs and encourage them to prepare for a violent race war, which he called Helter Skelter. Manson directed his followers to commit a series of brutal murders in the summer of 1969. On the night of August 8th, Manson sent a group of his followers, including Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian, to the home of actress Sharon Tate and her husband, director Roman Polanski. Polanski was not home, but Tate, who was 8 months pregnant, and 4 others were in the house. The Manson family brutally murdered all 5 occupants, stabbing them multiple times and leaving messages written in victims' blood on the walls. The following night, on August 9, 1969, Manson accompanied his followers to the home of Lino and Rosemary LaBianca, where he ordered their murders. The LaBiancas were stabbed to death in their home, with similar messages written in blood on the walls. These murders were intended to incite the race war that Manson had predicted, which he believed would lead to him and his followers emerging as the rulers of a new social order. Manson and some of his followers were arrested on October 1969, and the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office prepared to prosecute the group for the Tate LaBianca murders. The trial began on July 15, 1970, with Charles Manson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten charged with 7 counts of murder and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. The prosecution, led by Deputy District Attorney Vincent Bugliosi, argued that Manson had orchestrated the murders as part of his plan to incite an apocalyptic race war he called Helter Skelter. On January 25, 1971, after a 7-month trial, Manson, Atkins, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten were found guilty of all charges. In March 1971, they were sentenced to death. However, in 1972, California got rid of the death penalty and their sentences were changed to life in prison. Charles Tex Watson, who was tried separately, was also convicted of the murders and sentenced to death, later changed to life imprisonment. Other members of the Manson family involved in related crimes faced trials and convictions, further dismantling the group. Around this same time, the horrors of MKUltra were just beginning to come to light when the first public exposure came in 1974 when journalists and a few whistleblowers began to uncover the program's activities. This led to the formation of the Church Committee in 1975, which held hearings to investigate abuses by the CIA. During these hearings, it was revealed that many of the records related to MKUltra had been deliberately destroyed in 1973 on the orders of CIA officials to prevent full disclosure. Despite the destruction of many documents, surviving evidence confirmed that MKUltra involved a wide range of unethical experiments on human subjects. These experiments were conducted without proper oversight, often causing irreversible harm to those involved. The program was officially terminated in the early 1970s, but the incomplete records mean that the full extent of MKUltra's activities remain unknown. Although no official link between Charles Manson and MKUltra has ever been confirmed, many striking coincidences, coupled with strong evidence and reports from insiders, make it more likely than not that Manson was one of the many subjects in the MKUltra experiment. If you found this video interesting and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. My goal is 1,000 by the end of the year.